What's happening, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Phightin Words. Anthony SanFilippo is here. I'm Bob Wankel. Phillies take 2 out of 3 from the Chicago Cubs over the weekend at Wrigley Field, a Cubs team that had been playing very good baseball. So, Anthony, so far as games on April 27th go, I would say last night was pretty important. Not only do you kind of salvage the road trip a little bit, you get a series win, which you've not been doing much of lately. Nola, who's struggled immensely through 5 starts, goes out. They finally win a game behind him. He's showing some signs of life here. And the bullpen, which has been much maligned, gives you 3 scoreless innings last night. So I said to you kind of kiddingly, sort of not kiddingly, I have to work hard to be positive this morning because I still see a team that is largely lifeless. I have a ton of concerns about this team offensively. I don't know that what we saw last night from the bullpen is actually something that you can truly expect to be extrapolated and built upon, but it was good for a weekend. It was good for a night, and the ship isn't totally sinking here.
Well, no, I mean, and that was the positive, right, Bob? I mean, we kind of thought that there was a chance that they would be 1-5 on this trip. They went 2-4, so they kind of pulled out,
which is what you predicted last Monday. You said they were going to go 2-4 on this trip. So
but after the sweep against the Mets, we were like, they're going to go 1-5, they're going to be 500 when they come home, and it's going to be ugly. And you kind of salvage it by winning the last 2 games of the trip. Right, you kind of salvage it, and you got some good things on Saturday offensively. You didn't have very much good yesterday offensively, but you had, like you said, a lot of good pitching wise yesterday. So now you come out of it and you go, okay, they've played 3 good teams this year. They've won 2 of the 2 series against the good teams, and 1 they completely shit the bed against the Mets. Okay. Let's see where it's almost like they kind of, gave you all right, let's wait and see yet again. Like you got to punt ahead before you make a determination. And this is what this Phillies team does all the time, right? I mean, we've been through this before. They get to a point where it's like, they're about to fall off the cliff, and then they find a way to pull themselves back up to that edge. And you're like, okay, and then everything's good for a little while, and then they get closer back to the cliff, and you're ready to fall off, and then they pull themselves back from the edge again. And I think that's what they did again this weekend, as they usually do. And we'll see what comes up here in the coming week or two. I don't know. I just think it was. I'm still kind of where you are, Bob. Like there's a lot of things to be negative about and to be concerned about. But they somehow find a way and bring us back, and we've seen this before. I don't know if that means that it's going to end the same way, or if it means, hey, they're just a good team, and this is what they do.
I'm going to spin this very positively at the start here, and we can work through the things that we think are issues or the things that agitated you during the road trip over the weekend, even last night in a game that they win. There's plenty to kind of pick apart and talk about, hey, was this just annoying in a vacuum, or is it a symptom of a greater issue? Yeah. But I will say this. They're sitting here this morning. They're 15-13. Their run differential is dead even on the nose through 28 games. I think a lot has gone wrong for this team. They've played more games on the road than they have at home. Some of the competition has been pretty good. I don't think that this team is as dead as everyone makes it out to be. I don't think that the situation is quite as negative from a larger standpoint than it feels in this moment. That being said, I'm extremely agitated watching this team on a daily basis. I still think it's going to win 90 games. I just am very annoyed by a lot of what I see. Like, I find them to be an aggravating, if not often miserable watch. I really do. But I still think that there's enough there. And you say, well, how do you come on this show and spend 70% of the time picking apart their issues and still feel like that they're a 90-win team, which is off of my initial prediction of 93. I've scaled that down by 3 at this point. Oh, I'll tell you how I get there. I just look at the starting pitching, and I know I'm not breaking any news here, but when you go guy for guy down the line, I mean, it is damn good. It is a damn good group of starting pitchers. And now Aaron Nola, the last 2 games, he's pitched into the 7th inning and is over his last 2 starts, 13 and a third, 10 hits, 5 earned runs, 12 strikeouts, only 3 walks. Opponents only hitting .213 against him. So he's limiting the walks now. He's been much better with his location. Last night, we saw the velocity tick up just a little bit. Again, you're not going to see 95, 96, but we talked about that need to separate between the off-speed and breaking stuff and that fastball. That 1 mile per hour makes a huge difference in his game. I think that you feel a lot better about where he's at right now. I don't think that anyone ever thought he was going to have a 6 ERA this season, but I do think there's some question about, well, what does it look like? Does he look like the guy we saw 2 years ago where it settles in the mid-4s and he struggles for large chunks of the year? Even that, like, they can fit that into the current framework of this rotation. And I just think that the rotation is so good that they're going to find a way to get to 90 wins. And I also think that there has to be more out of this offense. And here's where I come down on this. I want to get on here and I want to kill this offense because it was horrible on Wednesday in the series finale against the Mets. It was horrible on Tuesday. It was horrible for 8 innings in New York in the opener last Monday. It was non-existent on Friday. They explode Saturday. And then last night, just dismal. But then I look at the stats and I go, okay, you have asked this team to make a concerted effort. And this does mimic a little bit what we talked about last week. See more pitches, be more disciplined. They are 3rd in baseball in walks this morning, behind only the Mariners and Diamondbacks. They are 3rd in on-base percentage, behind only the Yankees and the Cubs. And so they are doing a good job of getting on. They are doing a good job. And if you go into the deeper numbers, which I don't feel like doing this morning, they have seen more pitches. They have chased less. But I keep coming back to 2 issues here, and I think that something's got to give. They're down to 20th now in team batting average, and whatever. I'm not I'm not going to get caught up in that. I'm not going to get hung up on that. But this team, as constructed, we talk about their ability to slug. They are 23rd in baseball this morning in slugging percentage, and they're 25th in total home runs. I think, though I have a lot of concerns about these guys on an individual basis, I think that there's more there. So if I think that the starting pitching is legit and is only going to get better with the additions of Ranger Suarez and Andrew Painter, and I think that there's a little bit more slug out of this lineup and a little bit more clutch 2-out hitting just because there has to be a positive regression, then I think they're going to win more games and find themselves in the 90-win neighborhood.
Yeah. That doesn't mean you can't shoot holes through what this lineup is. You can't find problems with the team. You absolutely can still find it. And 2 things can be true, Bob. I mean, you can be a 90-win baseball team and have significant flaws that teams can exploit. It's the nature of the sport these days, right? I mean, you can find flaws on almost any team. Watch a lot of games, and you're gonna find. I mean, that Cubs team is a pretty good team, pretty good offensive team. Their bullpen sucks.
Yeah, I'm also terrible. Not blown away without Steele. That rotation, like I look at the probable pitchers and go, "Come on," they can swing it.
Yeah, they can hit. All right, and they're going to win that division probably pretty easily. The Central Division's not very good. And they're going to be a playoff team, and they got problems, right? I mean, every team's got problems. We see it. You see it everywhere. So yeah, but the Phillies ones are exacerbated on this show because this is what the team we talk about, the team we cover, and it's exacerbated in this city because that's the team that the Philly fans watch, and that's okay. That's the way it should be.
Let me ask you this. Okay, so this is what I'm sort of struggling with a little bit right now. I saw Jeff Kerr tweet out that the Phillies were hitting roughly 260 with runners in scoring position. And I look at that this morning and go, okay, great. They're 10th in baseball in batting average with runners in scoring position.
Isn't that fascinating that they're that high?
Yeah, that's great, right?
I mean, no, what I mean by fascinating, considering how much we talk about how bad they are, they're top 10 in the league in batting average with runners in scoring position.
Now, let me tell you why we talk about it so much. Because
Yes,
they're 24th with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. They're hitting 193 with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. And that is what you feel. And that is the primary takeaway. And so for me, what I'm trying to do right now is decide, is that underperformance or is that their DNA? Is that what they are? A bunch of unclutch guys that are going to hit sub 200 collectively with runners in scoring position and 2 outs all year. And then I look at the slugging, because I'm a big slug guy. Like, if you're hitting 18th, 19th in terms of batting average, I don't care as long as you're driving the baseball. This Phillies team is the entire inverse of what I want offensively. I want a little less chase and I want a little less strikeout, but I don't want it to be sacrificed to be a bunch of slap hitters. And that's what I wonder about, because I would tell you that, wow, the Phillies, knowing what I know about the Phillies and the names in this lineup, there's got to be more slug. They're not going to finish 25th in home runs this season. They're not going to be 23rd in slug. I think I feel that. I think I still believe that. But are they going to finish 10th? Are they going to finish 13th? Are they going to finish 18th? Like, because as much as I want to say, well, they'll obviously finish in the top half of the league, that's where the negativity for me comes in, where I start to look at these guys one by one, and I'm like, I just don't know where it's coming from based on what I've seen for a month.
Yeah. So here's where I'll say, and I think that there are guys that you could be concerned about, but I also think there are guys who shouldn't be concerned about. Like, obviously Harper and Schwarber are not. Schwarber's kind of going through it a little bit right now, even though he extended his on-base streak in his last plate appearance last night to 34 games. But he's kind of going through it a little bit offensively. Harper, same thing. I think those two guys, they're going to slug. They're going to slug. And no matter what, you're not seeing like a drop off from them. I think that they're just the kind of guys that are going to give you their numbers at the end of the year, and you're going to be like, yep, that's Bryce Harper. Yep, that's Kyle Schwarber. I think you're going to get the typical Nick Castellanos slug. You know, I don't think it's good. He's just the same guy all the time. And so what you get from Castellanos is what you're going to end up getting. I mean, I think on a warmer day, he wins the game with a home run last night in the 9th inning, right? I mean, you know, the wind's blowing in and it's cold and Wrigley and he hit it to the wall. Almost had it. But like, I think you're going to get the typical Castellanos slug. Trey Turner's the one that I'm completely perplexed by, and we talk about him every week. And I just don't know. He got 3 hits last night, right? I mean, I guess you can't really complain. He legs out the one to get the insurance run there in the 10th, whatever. But he's the one guy that is just like, where's the slug? It should be there. And I think it's going to come, but I don't know. I haven't seen it yet to be convinced of it. Everyone else is where I worry about the slug not coming, because I don't think it's there for everyone. Maybe Kepler. I don't know enough about Kepler, watching him on a consistent basis, so maybe it'll be there for him. But everyone else, there's no slug, and you're right, and that's a concern. That's a concern for me.
I want to just look back to last season, and I want to kind of debunk a myth here. April of 2024, and this also includes games in March, the Phillies finished April last season second in home runs across Major League Baseball with 37. They have, I believe, 21 or 22 this season, and they were number 1 in the National League through the month of April. And then you look at slug in April of last season, the Phillies were 3rd in baseball, 1st in the National League. So I know that we always rely on this thing with the weather, like the hitting season thing. Once it warms up, everything will be fine. Okay, maybe. I'm just telling you, last year they got off to a hot start and they were able to drive the ball from the jump. This year they're not. Now, I know that here's the other wrinkle in this. We talked about this last week. Is the plate discipline thing bleeding into the ability to do damage? Yeah, I think so. And we're not the only two to suggest that, right? I think you talk to a lot of people, and there's a feeling that could be in play. So then the question becomes, all right, do you have to undo that philosophically and just say, be you, go back to being who you are, and that switch will flip? Or are we overreacting to a 28-game sample in which these guys are still trying to figure it out a little bit and get acclimated to a new approach? Like, is it possible that by game 40, by game 50, they say, now we're able to walk the line. Now we're able to better blend both, where we can situationally, within a bat, pick our spots to let it rip, but without totally giving up our plate discipline, our approach, our ability to bear down. Is that possible? You know, because that would be my positive framing of this. I don't want to just say that it has to be one or the other, because as I said last week, you would think, hey, if you're going outside the zone less frequently and you're getting more pitches in the zone because of it, eventually teams are going to have to adjust their approach, you know, and how they go at you. So then do you see more pitches to hit? And then in turn, that damage comes. And like, that's the one thing I'm sort of banking on here, because when I look at these guys individually, I don't think that the slug is going to necessarily come from JT Realmuto this year. I gave you the over-under the other day, I think, of 11 home runs. I think that's a fair number. I don't think that Bryce Harper is going to hit 35 this year. I just don't. I think Schwarber can get to 40 maybe. Castellanos, as you noted, when it warms up, I think that there's probably more there. He probably did get robbed last night of one, and, you know, if that's in mid-July. But I don't, when I look at these guys on an individual basis, I go, I don't know that there's a whole lot more there, but I do think it's fair to allow for the possibility that they are still trying to work through this collectively different approach.
Yeah. And that's, and you know, that's why for years on this program, I've preached patience, that you got to let time tell the story. You can't overreact in a moment or in a weekend or even a week of games. But I do see the same concerning things that you see. And so I sit there and go, yeah, they'll be better than what they are right now. There's no question they'll be better than what they are right now. But what is that ceiling? And that's where I think that your concern is. And I'm joining you in that concern, because I'm not sure that the ceiling is as high as it used to be for these players individually. And so therefore you wonder, will it be enough in the end? And that's why everybody's so frustrated, right? I mean, that's why everybody's so concerned about the Phillies, you know, at 15-13, you know, not being good enough at this point. And I get it. And it's a valid concern to this point. Yeah, they'll be better, but they may not be much, much better.
Phillies almost lost that game last night. And
several times.
One player in particular that, can I just say this? We do this thing where, and I'm about to do it. I'm about to be guilty of this. We have takes on certain players.
Yeah.
And when things go the way when things go in a way that it supports our position, it's very easy to then repeat that position and be like, see? So we're obviously going, if you've listened to the show, you know we're about to talk about Johan Rojas. And I got on here 2 weeks ago and said, I don't think he's a Major League Baseball player. And I've repeated that several times. I even repeated it after he improved his batting average, I think like 8 days ago, to 370. And I see some other people that are prominent voices in this market pump up Johan Rojas. And every time he hits a 9-hopper single, they're like, see, this guy's it. What are you guys watching? I don't know. Like, right? Like, I think that there's two things that need to be said here. One, Johan Rojas is not in this lineup to be an offensive driver. Cool. I think everyone agrees with that. But this idea that, like, well, if everyone else does their job, we can just totally excuse his inability to hit. Like, I don't understand that. I've never understood that. I've heard that take going back to the beginning of last season as like a in defense of him. You know, this is why you play him. I just look at the situation here. He's down to, where's he at this morning? 265. Is that right? Man, that actually feels a little bit higher than I would have thought. Yeah, 265. He's got a 621 OPS. He has 3 extra base hits in 2 extra base hits in 49 at bats. You know, he's cooled off. right? Yeah, ESPN announcers called him elite last night. I immediately thought of this podcast. Like, look, I don't know what everyone else is seeing. I saw a ball early in that game that has to be caught. Nico Horner hits a fly ball to, I will call it shallow right center. And that's Johan Rojas's ball. And if he's an elite defender, he has to make that play every single time, and he doesn't. And then that run ends up scoring. That was the only blemish of Aaron Nola's night. And the reason why I'm specifically hard on that play is that if you're in there to simply make that play, then you've got to make that play. And he doesn't. And, you see later in the game, just situationally, can't get a bunt down, ends up hitting to a double play. Like, there's been this storyline about how all of a sudden he's like this electric bunter. And wow, the Phillies have done great work turning him into a small ball guy. No, they haven't. He can't bunt. Even you go back to the Marlins series, I guess it was, I don't want to make sure I get my day right. I think it was Saturday, the game where they built the big lead and then they almost blew it. He had a bunt. It was a one-hopper back to the mound. The Marlins just didn't rotate defensively in the infield, and he's on first base because of it with a hit. Like, that wasn't a good bunt. Like, I don't see it. So for me, it's like, you better play damn near perfect defensively to justify that bat. Because, like, you can talk about how he's actually swinging the bat pretty well. And, like, how are you going to pick on him? He's hitting 265. Like I said, he's got a 621 OPS. And this is probably about as well as he could possibly play from an offensive standpoint. And he's got a 621 OPS.
Bob, most people don't realize that we had a couple final names that we were thinking about for this podcast when we changed over and created it. And it came down to Phightin Words and Johan Rojas stinks. And we chose Phightin Words just for the longevity of it. But the fact of the matter is that there is so much that this guy does in a game that drives me crazy, because to me it's mental errors, and in the sense that it's lacking baseball sense. And I don't know how you make it to the major leagues, the best league in the world, and not have a sense for the game and a sense for how to play the game.
Oh, you do it by playing for this organization who has no answer in the outfield, so thus he's here.
I mean, it's just that's the befuddling thing to me. Like, I wouldn't dislike Johan Rojas's game as much as I do if it was just a lack of ability, right? Like, if it was just a thing that he's just not, an elite player to get to this level, whatever, but he at least knew the game. Like, you can't, that fly ball last night, Castellanos could have caught it. There's no question Castellanos could have caught it. But Rojas called him off. And Castellanos does the right thing in deferring to the center fielder. That's what you're supposed to do. So he steps away, and then Rojas is nowhere near it as he's calling him off, and lunges and dives and makes a half-assed effort at it. Like, you can't have that happen.
The expected batting average? I know you know it.
Yes, I know it. Go ahead.
The expected batting average on that ball was .010. Actually, almost impossible that was a hit. And yet, it was the Cubs' entire offense last night for 10 innings.
Yes.
And it's frustrating because, like, I watch that and go, like, okay, like, you want to talk about get me to October. What does this look like in October? It's all about the playoffs with this team. Okay, so assuming that they get there, do you want to have a player out in center field that creates these situations and can and will end up costing you baseball games because he can't do the little things right? And there's not enough upside anywhere else in the game to offset the tolerance for that. And that is the issue. I know that there are a million things that we can talk about. And, like, we could go down the list. Trey Turner, a couple hits last night. He was in the middle of things late. Like, great, but we haven't really seen him drive the baseball. Defensively on Saturday, not good. We could pick apart Trey Turner. We can do the whole thing. And you're like, well, why are you guys picking on Johan Rojas? He's the 9-hitter. He's the one guy on this team seemingly that makes no money. Like, but to me, it's like, I feel like I have to bang the drum on this because you can't let the Phillies get away with it. Like, you can't You cannot consume this stuff and say, like, that's fine if everyone else does their job. That's not how it works.
It's not something that a championship level team does, is have a player like that as a regular in their lineup. You cannot. And the reason we're picking on him today is because he would have cost them the game yesterday had the Phillies lost that game in any capacity, because of the play in center field, because he bunts into a double play, because then he bunts again. Now, I think that one's more on the second failed bunt is more on the manager than it is on the player. But at the same time, if you're gonna run a suicide squeeze, you can't bunt it that hard right back to a guy. Like, I mean, you gotta put it somewhere so that it works. Like, I don't know. Like, the whole thing was, and I'm just sitting there like,
you're committed to the bit. I mean, it's crazy because, like, I don't think he's an above. I mean, I think at best he's a little bit below average as a bunter.
Correct.
And I think that they probably feel that way as well. So then what, again, does that say, at least from the dugout, right? Like, what does it say that they have him bunting in that situation?
I know that, like I said, there's a lot on the manager in that too. Because
and to me, it's like, how do you not? And I don't want to get into that today because it's like, whatever, they won the game.
Yeah, I would have pinch hit for him both times. I would have pinch hit
for him as well. I know that they've tried to do that in a couple other situations and it hasn't paid off. And okay, fine, but I mean, just elevate the baseball there.
Well, here's the one that the thing, and I said this in the text exchange too. Like, you don't have to go Cal Stevenson in the spot when you have Real Muto on third and you want to get that insurance run in. Like, you have one out and a runner at third base. You only need a fly ball. Yeah. Go Weston Wilson. Go Weston Wilson and say, go up there and hit me a fly ball. That's all you needed to get that third run home. Granted, the run gets in on, a walk and then Turner infield single, whatever, on a play that the third baseman Brujan double clutches, but it shouldn't have come down to that, is what I'm trying to say. So, and the thing of it is that it comes down to these things, and these things happen in a game, and you pick on the lowest, the lowest common denominator here, because they are trotting that player out there as a regular in your lineup for a team that's supposed to be a championship contending team. And that's why we keep talking about it, because it's problematic for the entire team that this is the situation that you have in center field.
Are we back on Brandon Marsh watch here again? I saw that he had some further hamstring tightness.
Yeah.
So I guess, is it fair to not expect him back anytime in the immediate future here?
Yeah, I would imagine that's going to probably extend how long he's out for a little bit. I wonder, Bob, if you go against a righty here against the Nationals, if Cal Stevenson gets a start out there in center after that game last night.
Probably arriving at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's also, Rojas sitting under 200 in his last 7 games. So
yeah,
I think it's probably time to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. I think that they worry that they get even more left-handed, right? By putting Cal Stevenson out there. But that's okay. I mean, he can't be worse. He can't be worse.
All right. I actually have a few questions here that I want to get to, but the one other thing, at least pertaining to last night's game, that I thought was interesting is that you do get 3 scoreless innings out of the Phillies bullpen, but It wouldn't be Bob Wankel and it wouldn't be this show if I kind of took a little bit of a negative tilt to it. I thought Ryan Kerkering again last night did not look like himself.
No,
I thought he got away with a few pitches and some decently hard contact as well. Good start, maybe just from like a confidence standpoint, throwing a clean inning, feeling okay. Maybe those things kind of add up, and then he gets back to being him. Maybe, but I didn't love what I saw there from him in the 8th, other than the final result, which you got to start somewhere. Like I said, Alvarado continues to really do a nice job for the most part for this team. I feel very good about him in games right now. He's going to blow one. He's going to have a 37 pitch inning where he can't throw strikes. And we're all going to say, like, oh, look, that's why you can't try. Fine, whatever. Right now, I feel really good about the way he's throwing the ball, and I feel good about him coming into a game. So then that brings us to Jordan Romano, who, like, you can't do – in the beginning of the year, it was like you couldn't do a show without talking about, like a Rojas or Aaron Nola or whoever. To me, it's like you can't do a show right now without talking about Jordan Romano. And he comes in, he does a really nice job. He gets a save last night in 10th inning, scoreless inning. And again, like he tops out 97-9. Like the average fastball velo is a little over 96, which is up over his season average. We've been talking about this the last couple times he's been in games where he said, like, all right, there's more life on the fastball. So that's one hurdle cleared. He's not a guy that's going to be throwing 95 for you. Good. I guess here's how I want to frame this, because I don't think that you or I or anyone else can look at what happened last night and say it's fixed. Is this guy somebody that the Phillies will be turning to in the month of August to get outs in the 8th or 9th inning of games?
They hope so. They hope so.
Do you think that they, first of all, do you think they will? And I guess really, like, do you think that they're holding out like a sliver of hope, or do you think that there's real belief that this is going to get ironed out for him?
I think that the bigger question is his slider command, right? I mean, like, he had one at the strikeout. I thought it was a great slider that he threw last night. It was really, really.
I've seen
good
this
pitch.
with him all season. It's
yeah,
and then there's a mistake,
and then he hangs one. Right. Yeah. And so like I think that's the thing that they're worried about more than anything else. Like you mentioned, I don't think that they're worried about the fastball. I think that the fastball plays, especially at the speed that he's throwing it, the velocity he's throwing it with. It's the slider that I think is the issue when you're a 2-pitch pitcher. If one of them is really inconsistent, well then guess what? Then you're a 1-pitch pitcher, and you can't be a 1-pitch pitcher in Major League Baseball. And so I think that that's the thing that they got to kind of iron it out and see. And who knows, maybe it rectifies itself after a disastrous start. They're going to give it more time. They're going to give it another, you mentioned 40-50 games earlier about the lineup. We heard Dombrowski in New York say he usually gives, pitchers 40 games, as far as relievers go, 40 games into the season before he kind of starts making decisions about where they should be. So, he's going to get another couple weeks to run at this. If we see some more consistency going forward, then they're going to rely on him, later in games. Maybe not the 8th or 9th. They may trade for another 8th or 9th inning guy, but I could see Romano still being part of that 6th, 7th, 8th kind of middle relief, protecting a 1-run lead kind of game if your starter's out after 5 or 5 2/3 or whatever.
Yeah. Let me just give you.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to finish off the statement, basically saying that he's got a couple weeks to show them, and if he doesn't, then they'll go in a different direction.
Yeah. Just some numbers here for you. At bats that have finished with a slider where the ball's been put in play this season, opponents are 10 for 30. 5 singles, 3 doubles, 2 home runs. They're hitting .333 against his slider with a .633 slugging percentage. And you go, wow, that's really not good. They're also 5 for 14 against his 4-seamer, which is .357 and a .714 slugging percentage. So he's still got some work to do. There's no question about it. He is, to me, the key to the whole thing in the short term. Like, I really do believe that you can fix a bullpen in season to a degree. Like, I don't think that you can go from being in April the 30th bullpen overall in terms of ERA, and then at the end of the year be a top 5 group. I think that I don't know that the Phillies have that in them. They would have to probably have multiple fixes internally, whether that be improvement from the guys up here, whether that be 1 or 2 guys coming that they test and they try out. I know that they don't want to turn Mick Abel into a reliever. Like, I get it. I know that the value is in starting pitching and you want to go 8-9. Here you go. The Phillies turn. Like, to me, like, when I watch his last outing and I see him nipping 97 in the 7th inning, I go like, man, like, what's Mick Abel's path to the major league rotation up here, right? But at the same time, and I think the reason why you have to be a little bit hesitant to do that is because if that's the question, what's Mick Abel's path up here, and there isn't one, well, if he does have this renaissance, this resurgence in the first half this season, do you want to diminish his trade value and part of a potential deal and say, well, we've converted him to a reliever, so we actually just knocked the ceiling off of his value in return? So I don't think that the Phillies need to go run out and make him a reliever today. But, like, I don't know. I mean, the arm is live enough that could possibly play.
Yeah, I think you nailed that spot on, because when I saw Chris's comment, I was formulating what my response was going to be, and you basically just gave 90% of it, and that is, Mick Abel's had a nice start to the season. He's not blowing people away in AAA, but he's not been bad. I mean, it's he's got a 3.5 ERA or something around that. And he's doing a nice job through 5 starts at AAA. So you want to kind of keep him as a starter as you're approaching the trade deadline, because he now becomes an asset. If he continues to pitch like this, he's an asset that you can move at the deadline. If for some reason after July 31st, Mick Abel is still part of your organization and you haven't traded him in some capacity, and you want to look at that and go, okay, can we now look at this out of the bullpen and it be a potential arm for us down the stretch that we can bring in internally and improve our bullpen? I think that's a fair time to do it.
Yeah.
Right. At that point. And you don't need a lot of time in the bullpen. Like you say, all right, July 31st, we didn't trade him. Throw him in the bullpen for a couple weeks in August at AAA. Let's see how it works. Looks good. We want to call him up for the last month of the season and pitch him out of the bullpen and see if it improves our pen. If it works, great. Then he's added to the playoff roster. Like, that's kind of how you look at it. That's kind of what you do, right? They did it with Kerkering. Not that they switched him, but if you remember in 23, Kerkering came up at the end of the year and was in the bullpen.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, like, you can do that in September. So I don't think it's something that's in the plan right now, but it certainly could be in a couple of months.
So then you have your minor leagues that you can look to, potentially converting some arms. Maybe there's a guy at Lehigh who, their bullpen's actually performed pretty well thus far. Maybe there's a guy that you just bring up, you slot in, see what he can do in some lower leverage spots, and maybe you have something there. And obviously you can go outside the organization and maybe make 1 or 2 acquisitions too to tighten things up. Point being, I think that if all these other things come together, if the starting pitching continues to perform at an elite rate and you get some increase in production from this offense, then to me, the bullpen, though it's probably the biggest obstacle that they have to navigate in this moment, I don't know is my biggest long-term concern about what October could possibly look like. My next question to you, okay?
Yeah.
Off of that. Now I think we've tied up last night's game, the series, where they're at in the moment.
Well, we haven't even talked about Aaron Nola.
Well, I mean, I think I tried to touch on that at the top. Last 2 starts, he's looked really good. It's like the moment. I mean, I don't want to do 10 minutes because, I don't want to do 10 minutes of Aaron Nola.
But I'll tell you what the one thing I wanted to say about Nola last night, because the one thing I think that has been failing him to this point, well, it's a 2-part thing, but his cutter has just not been there until last night. Like, I thought last night his cutter was really good, but more than anything else, Bob, he got strike 1 last night. And when you get strike 1 on a batter like that, and then make that second pitch, that whether it's that cutter, whether it's the curveball or changeup, whatever you're throwing. His 2-seamer had great life last night. I think he had 16 whiffs in the game last night. Like, those pitches,
and the Cubs were happy to allow him to establish strike 1. You almost got the sense that their scouting report coming into that game was spit early, then he's going to have to give in, and then we're going to go get him. And then when he was making those pitches, it was like, oh shit, our game plan, it's not going to work tonight.
Yeah. So like that was, to me, what was the most encouraging thing. I don't want to try and, gush over one outing. It was a really great outing by him. But I do think that the most encouraging thing, if you're looking for something moving forward, is the fact that he was throwing strike 1 and the cutter was finally the Aaron Nola-esque cutter that he's had in the past that he did not have in his first 5 starts.
You're absolutely right. So you have a uptick in velocity. The cutter comes back. He's getting strike 1. He's doing all of these things from a mechanical and technical standpoint that are great. And here's where I'll give him additional credit, because so much of what we talk about with Aaron Nola is storyline driven. How many times have I been on this show and said, hey, Aaron, this is a pretty big spot for this team. You're getting paid a lot of money. Go out there and do it for them. And he did it last night. He did it on a national stage against a top 3 offense, a team that swung the bats very well at the start of this season. And he did it to save them from a 1-5 road trip on a night where he got very little support. Like, he did all of the things that you ask a top of the rotation guy to do. And I'm not going to gush over him either, because they are 1-5 in his starts, and his ERA still sits in the mid 5s. And I'm just not going to do it. But if we're going to get on the show and kill him or if I'm going to point out or kill or however you want to say it, note that he has these struggles in these big spots. Well, it was the total opposite last night. That was a drop the hammer performance in a situation where I felt they really, really needed one. And he gave it to him last night. And you hope that he's able to build on that now and do what he always does, which is put together 3 or 4 starts where you're like, wow, it's Aaron Nola. He's back, and then it'll be the 3rd week of May and we'll say like, wow, we feel great about Aaron Nola. He's got the ball tonight and he's going to give up 7 runs in 5 innings. And we'll be having the conversation, what's wrong with Aaron Nola all over again until he makes his next 5 starts where he's really good. And then poof, we'll be 2 years into this contract. I mean, that's just what it's going to be. Like, tell me that anything I just said is not wrong. Like,
no, you're 100% right. You're 100%.
So
right.
then I start to go back to now, like, okay, so we're getting to the end of the month here. Phillies have an opportunity to win what? They could finish the month if they win the first 2 games against the Nationals at what, 17 and 13?
Yes.
Would you have taken that?
Yes.
Knowing, hey, the Dodgers, the Mets on the road, the Cubs on the road, like you would. It's early. Yeah. All you want to do is not totally bury yourself. 17.
Well, not only that, not only that, because at the beginning, I remember, I mean, nobody expected the Braves to have a slow start, right? You had the Braves on the road too in that series, and the Giants. You knew the Giants. Well, I kind of knew the Giants were going to be an improved team, like and like they had a tough schedule for April. So if you said 17 and 13 was going to be their record at the end of April, I'd take it in a heartbeat. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, and we're going to be disappointed with it if that's the case. That's the funny part about this.
Yes, and just because I know everyone loves the on pace for, let's see here, 17 30 times 162. That's a 91.8 win pace. Yes. I don't know.
I know.
But I'm the number one guilty guy. I got. You know what? There's another show in town that does this thing where they like make fun of fans that point out that the Phillies aren't good, like, or that there's like real issues. No. Like, well, you don't know that baseball is 162 and all that. Like, look, like I know, like they're on 90. They could be on a 92 win pace if they win their next 2 games at the end of April. You'd be lying to the people listening to the show if you told them that, this guy's a gamer, he'll figure it out. There's too much of that. Like there's you know who I'm talking about too, by the way, right?
Yeah, of course I do. Yes, yes. Of course.
All that said, Alec Bohm, this team's 3rd baseman in August. I know he had the big sack fly last night. Actually drove that ball pretty. It was probably one of the like 5 balls this season that he really drove.
Yeah.
Is he 3rd baseman in August?
Probably. I know, but here's one where you were talking about we were talking about Rojas earlier, and you're like, you don't like the idea of it's okay if this guy doesn't hit at the bottom, he's their 9 hitter, blah blah blah. I'll tell you what, if Alec Bohm does what Alec Bohm's doing or usually does as a hitter, and you're batting him 8th,
you can't. That's the whole thing, though. You cannot hit this guy 8th. If Alec Bohm is hitting 8th and nobody in the middle of the order other than Schwarber or Harper can hit a home run, like it doesn't work. Like again, like this is almost the Rojas conversation. It's like, well, if Alec Bohm gets his average up to 255 and hits 6 home runs, like you could hit him 8th. Like that's the whole point. Like you've got to replace him with somebody that can give you the offensive production that like a major league 3rd baseman should give you.
Yeah, well, I'm not a big Alec Bohm guy
on this team.
Yeah, I'm not a big Bohm guy. I'm not. But I think if you get back to Alec Bohm being who Alec Bohm has been the last couple of years, and he's batting towards the bottom of your lineup, that's not the worst thing in the world.
109 at bats, no home runs.
I'm with you, Bob. I'm with you. A guy that big should have a home run by this point. He should. It is crazy.
I mean, we're at a point where if like this is going to be his power output, just to make sure that I'm being fully transparent here. No home runs, 4 doubles. That was the whole thing. He's a doubles machine, right? Like that was the whole thing with him last year. Oh, look at all the doubles. Like he's got 4 doubles. And then that bogus triple that was a fly out. Like so, but like if that's where we're at here, like he's going to have to hit 3. He's going to have to be like Ben Revere. He's going to have to hit 309 to make this work. Like You've got to drive the ball. So you think money again, like that's where I'm at. Money on Bohm is your third baseman come August. Oof. Is the center field situation different? Is there a player coming?
Yeah, it has to be. Then center field has to be rectified. If it's not, that's to steal a line from our fearless leader at Joy Media. That would be organizational malpractice.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was institutional arrogance or something like that.
That's the other one.
Because he wanted Howie Roseman fired. Like
yes,
6 years ago?
Institutional arrogance and organizational malpractice. They're his two phrases that he uses. But yeah, yes. So yeah. I mean, look, I think that one does. I think that one does get rectified.
Okay.
I think that one does get rectified. So
I got two more quick ones for you here because I think that this just all plays into what we've seen over the last week. How you feeling about Bryson Stott at the top of this lineup?
So he's been good.
Yeah.
He individually has been good.
Yes, he has.
The team
has not been
has been worse. Has been worse since Bryson Stott's been. So it's kind of a weird conundrum, right? It's like,
so this is Rob Thompson sitting in his office and saying, see, all this leadoff stuff is totally overrated. It doesn't matter.
I know. It's fun. It's funny because it's been exactly that. And the purpose of doing it was to protect Bryce Harper better by putting Schwarber behind him. Hasn't really helped Harper all that much. He had a nice stretch of a handful of games in there since they started this, but he's kind of struggled since. And Schwarber struggled with him. And maybe eventually that turns around, but it's hard to knock Stott because Stott's done his job. He's done his part.
This is what I thought he was. And I'm not saying this is where he ends the season. Is he going to hit 292? I don't know. Is his on base percentage going to be 367? I'm not sure. But like over the last 3 years, I've watched this player and I said, I think he is this guy. I don't think he's a star, but I think he's a very good player. I think he's a guy that could probably hit 280 for you, probably get on base around 350, maybe pop 12 to 16 home runs in a season. Maybe he gets to 25, 30 doubles. He plays very good defense at second base. Like this, what we've gotten out of him for a month is what I thought we would get out of him. Yeah.
No, yeah, I think so. And that's the thing. I'm one of my hot takes at the beginning of the year, if you go back to our episode at the end of March, was that Bryson Stott would be an all-star second baseman this year. And if he remains in the leadoff spot doing what he's doing, he's got a real chance at that. Like, I think that that's a real possibility that he could be that. I don't necessarily know if it makes the lineup better, but it certainly is. He's a good enough player to bat there. And I'm okay with him staying there. It's the guys behind him that are making all the big money that they're the ones that have to start changing what they're doing because he's doing his job. That's for sure. By the way, one thing throwing back to Alec Bohm, I was looking this up while you brought up the Stott thing. There are in Major League Baseball this year 72 players who have at least 100 at bats. Okay, Alec Bohm is one of 3 with no home runs.
Who are the other 2?
Xavier Edwards, who's the leadoff hitter for the Miami Marlins, and Bo Bichette.
Wow.
A little bit of a surprise there. But here's the difference. Bohm is batting 50 points below either one of them. His on-base percentage is 70 points below the next guy, and his OPS is 120 points below the next guy. So he is so far behind everyone else overall when you kind of look at it. So, yeah, there are only 3 players with at least 100 at bats and no home runs.
Well, since we're talking about it, let's just pile on. I thought that the ball that Dansby Swanson hit, that was the 5-4-3 double play call on the field that they have returned, should have been a double play. And a normal third baseman with good hands makes that.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Okay, just wanted to throw that in there because
yeah.
I'm all out today. Last one for me, real quick. Max Kepler had a very nice week here. He's had a very good stretch over his last 7 games. He's 8 for his last 24 home run. He's hitting 333 with a 948 OPS. I don't know. Like, I still don't get the fit, and I never will, but at least he looks like a functional player at this point, whereas the first 3.5 weeks of the season, he did not. So I wanted to point that out. I don't know if you have any other takeaways on him, but at least it's starting to, like, look okay.
Yeah. The one thing I like about Kepler a lot is he's another guy who sees pitches well. He takes a lot of pitches. He works walks. Like I sometimes get frustrated by watching him swing the bat, and like it's almost like he's trying to like half swing sometimes and put a ball in play, and I don't understand why he does that. It's weird. Like I watch some of his swings, like what the hell is he doing there? But I do like the fact that he has a good eye and he can find a way on base, and he's been serviceable. Look, if he ends up being a 2-WAR player at the end of the year, you're happy. You're happy with Max Kepler.
I know we talked about the Phillies, former Phillies, having a good start here, getting off to a good start.
Yeah.
Dude, Austin Hayes, 49 at bats, same amount as Johan Rojas, by the way. 19 of 49, 5 home runs. He's hitting .388 with a .444 on base percentage and a .755 slugging percentage. His OPS plus is .224 right now.
It's crazy.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. That kidney, I mean, look, one thing that like we all kind of like, I don't want to say we all, but it's like, hey, he had a kidney condition, and we all like, okay, great. Like, now you're back though, so play better baseball. And he didn't. That had to, I mean, he's not this. Like, I think we can all agree that he's probably not going to double this output in his next 49 at bats.
Right.
But it might be fair to say that he was pretty profoundly impacted by his condition when he got here last year. Fair to say?
I think it's fair to say.
I know we all kind of like sighed and rolled our eyes at him by the end last year, but good for him, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
For him. I'm glad he's doing what he's doing. I wish he was doing it here, but
yeah, for sure.
All right, what else you got for me?
Well, one last thing has to be, it was a crazy weekend in Major League Baseball. Just absolute craziness. First of all, let's go back to Eugenio Suarez hitting 4 home runs in a game and then losing.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's all Alec Boehm needs is a 4 home run game. And everything will be fine. He'll be on 20 homer pace.
4 homers in a game.
Well, that's what the Atlanta Braves are all about. They're just going to outslug you.
Holy smokes. Like first of all, 4 homer game doesn't happen all that often to begin with. But I think it's only the second time it's ever happened that it happened in a game where the team lost.
Yeah.
Wild stuff, right?
8-7, I believe, final.
Yeah. 8-7 was
tied it in the 9th, and they lost in extras, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Craziness. How about the Mets blowing a 7-1 lead to the Nats?
I knew that this would come up today. 7-1 lead in the 7th. They lose. Guess what? 8-7. Alonso makes a brutal error.
Holy hell, was that crazy, that error. Like, he makes a nice play on the ground ball and then just airmailed it to the pitcher.
Stanek, who I didn't think was great against the Phillies, like he's out there, loses the game. They're 19-9. They have a 4-game lead over the Phillies in the East. Is that yesterday one that you circle and you go,
Yeah.
That Met DNA coming out is I know you are.
And not only that, AJ Minter now on the IL. He gets hurt and he's got to miss time. So an already, in my mind, substandard pitching staff for a playoff caliber team just took another hit. Minter's been one of their better relievers to start off with.
Yes. So they have one more against the Nationals this afternoon, and then they go back home against the Diamondbacks, who are obviously a competent team. The thing is with the Mets is that they have some magic going on at Citi Field right now, and that's really the one thing. Like, they're a very ordinary team away from there. I mean, they would not be the first good baseball team to be average on the road, or not even good on the road, but awesome at home. But I think they're 12-1 at home right now. So they come back home this week, and they are a fascinating team. And obviously they're a very important team in context of the Phillies' outcome this season. I like them more than you do. I'll say that.
Well, they have what the Phillies had a couple years ago, in the sense that they have that vibe, that locker room vibe, that home field vibe. That's good.
They also have Juan Soto, who was on base 4 times yesterday and hasn't really gotten going yet.
Yeah, but he also made a shit ass play in the outfield that allowed the Nationals to start the comeback too, right? So he giveth and taketh away too, right? So I don't know how long Juan Soto's going to be an outfielder for the Mets. That could be a thing too down the line. I mean, it's going to be there this year, but when we're doing this show in 2028, we might be talking about is Juan Soto just a DH the rest of his career?
Designated hitter Juan Soto, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, Bob, the play of all plays yesterday, which I was dying. I watched it like 8 times because I enjoyed it so much, was the way that the Giants-Rangers game ended on the Helio Ramos Little League home run. That ball, he hit it about 30 feet and circled the bases. On 2 throwing errors.
I'm going to just say I'm on board. I think I'm a believer of like moments defining a season, and baseball's tough, right? Like 162. But I really do think you need like special plays within the course of a season. And to me, like you watch that play yesterday, what a stupid play. But I feel like that the Giants are now a playoff team. Like they're absolutely going to be in the play. Not to mention that they're leading the division and they're 19-10 right now. But I just feel like plays like that happen, and if enough of those memorable, goofy, crazy type of moments happen throughout the course of a year, you just go, that team's in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the best part about it was he was stopping at second base, and if you watch the video, like the whole bench. Like every Giants player, the third base coach, they're screaming at him to go to third. And then he like realizes, oh, damn it, I got to go to third base. And that forces the crazy ass throw to third. And then he scores. It was a bumbling play on both sides. It was a bad swing. It was a bad base running, 2 terrible throws. And it's the walk-off play to end a game in Major League Baseball. It was unbelievable.
I got one more for you just because we're doing the weekend wrap up here Friday night. Yeah. I don't know if you caught it. You may have, because I know you're a late night baseball guy. Paul Skeens versus the Dodgers.
Yeah.
6 1/3, no runs, 5 hits, no walks, 9 strikeouts. Like right after them, dominant.
Yeah.
If not for him, the Phillies, who we didn't even talk about this guy, but Jesus Luzardo might be starting the All-Star game for the National League this summer at this rate.
Yeah.
If not,
pitching really well.
Pitching really well, but man, Paul Skeens, like
we talked about this a little bit last year when we talked about Ranger Suarez start, though. Let's keep that in mind. Like he was all-star game starter for 10, 12 games, and then all of a sudden
you mean this in context of Luzardo or in context?
Yes. No, Skeens is one of the best pitchers in baseball.
This guy's different.
Yeah, he's different.
Is
but
Paul Skeens a Pirate in 2032?
Probably not.
Like, are they going to, I know like the Jeff Passan thing here, like he's just been destroying the Pirates and like, this is ridiculous. You have this guy here, you have to maximize it. You have a fan base that's like starving. They'll show up.
Yeah.
To me, that is one of the most interesting stories in baseball is like, will this guy impact the way that the Pirates ultimately do business?
It should. When you have a player who's that dominant, it should impact the way you do business. But if you have poor ownership, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Look at the Angels. The Angels had Trout and Ohtani. And
you're right.
Figure it out.
I mean, you're right. You're right.
Right. When you have bad ownership,
it's a little different. I mean, they're the same bad ownership, but like there was at least a financial commitment by the Angels at times. I mean, as soon as you sign Anthony Rendon to that deal, that was kind of it. But
right. So,
okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think Skeens is in Pittsburgh in 20.
You got your crystal ball out. What are we getting from the Phillies this week? Are they back on track with a sweep at home of the Nationals?
No, I don't think it's a sweep. No, I mean the Nationals they're a sneaky.
I believe that the Nationals have played roughly 500 since the end of the.
They're 13. They're 13 and 15 for the year.
Yeah,
but the other thing to keep in mind with the Nats, and I'm going to have to take a second to pull it up, but they've had a really, really tough schedule to start the year, and they're 13 and 15, right? I mean, the Nationals played the Phillies, the Diamondbacks, the Dodgers, Well, the Orioles were supposed to be, good, but I guess not. And the Mets all this season, they had a 10-game road trip. Granted, they played Miami and Colorado and Pittsburgh on that road trip, but it's a road trip nevertheless. And they played Toronto, who's not a bad team either. They've had a real tough schedule. So
they probably have a chance to dial in on a 500 season. I mean, I think it's possible unless they strip at the deadline and don't compete the last 2 months. But
yeah, I mean, so for them to be 13 and 15, it's going to be interesting. Now they haven't announced who their pitcher is for their rotation is for this series. It's going to be interesting to see who they go with. But Wheeler's going to start tomorrow. That was the spot that was supposed to be Christopher Sanchez. They're bumping guys up. We'll see where Sanchez actually falls into the mix here. But Wheeler's going to start tomorrow night. So I do think the Phillies take 2 of 3 from the Nats. And then we'll see where things are at when we head into the weekend against the Diamondbacks.
All right, very good.
Yeah. So that's it for the latest episode number 11 of Phightin Words. We're putting them together, Bob. We're putting them together. 11.
Blink
already.
and it'll be 7 years later, and then we'll
exactly. So, but just a reminder for everyone, you can subscribe to Phightin Words on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, wherever you get your podcast. But we love it most if you subscribe to it here on YouTube. Click the thumbs up, ring the bell. You'll never miss an episode, never miss a show. You can always find us if you're listening on the podcast feed and you want to find us on YouTube. It's www.youtube.com/@Phightin Words. For Bob Wankel, I'm Anthony SanFilippo. We will see you on Friday, or talk to you again on Friday after this national series, and get ready for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So until then, have a good week.